So today I want to show you how to make this awesome spiral web dream catcher. Actually, it's really eye-catching because as you can see there's not only a spiral web happening, but there's also a pinwheel burst. And you see these clusters that are also within the design that I'm sure when it's moving in the wind would be really fun to catch lots of people's attentions and make a lot of people smile. So this is actually something that was a happy accident because I was attempting to do this design and no one had a pattern for it. When I saw the posts, I thought, well, I'll just see if I can figure it out. I understand there is a pattern on Ravelry for this one, although I don't believe there's a pattern for this one. This one I think is pretty tricky to do, but I'd be happy to show you how to do it today. So let's get started. I want to tell you what you're going to need. I am using a 4.5 hook, okay, and I love the wooden handle. Probably can't see too clearly on this computer, but anyhow, 4.5 is pretty much my favorite hook, and it will work just fine for this project. And you're going to need, of course, a pair of scissors and lots of fun art yarns for fringe. I used tie-dye fabrics and art yarns like the furry stuff and textural stuff that you might have lying around in your stash. This is recycled silk. It's made into yarn. I think Hobby Lobby has it. Works pretty good for this too. The hoop, I get them wholesale. There's a craft supply place by my house, Monroe Crafts, and you can also order off their website, so I'll be sure to add that information when I finish this tutorial. So, okay, so to get started, all you're going to need, I have 12 colors lying here on the floor. They're just basic acrylic. I have some vintage yarns and a lot of Red Heart basic acrylic. This is a Super Saver. I'm sure this is something that most crocheters have lying around. Easy acrylics. You can use any type of yarns you want, but I find that this yarn is pretty sufficient for this type of project. And let's see, it is worsted, so now let's get to the magic ring. I am going to start with white. I'm trying to do like a rainbow effect here. So you're going to be working 12 colors into this magic ring, and if you know how to make a magic ring, you're basically just taking the yarn and looping it through. Although you're going to want a longer tail here. So just because you're going to have a bigger circle, because working 12 yarns in this circle at the same time gets a little cumbersome, so you want to leave it kind of wide. And you can always, at the end, I pull it tighter before I secure the ends. So with your crochet hook, you want to just sorry, let me get a handle here on. Now, always, I wanted to mention this too, start from the inside of the yarns, because working with so many yarns, they tangle really easily. This is kind of a tricky project, working with so many yarns, so just know that if you want to make it a little bit easier on yourself, start from the insides of the yarns. Okay, so now we're going to start. Actually, I'm going to flip this around because it was taking my magic loop apart. So you want to take your yarn hook or your crochet hook, and you're going to do your first double crochet. So you're going to chain 2. You can pull this just a little bit, not too much though. Now you're going to do another chain because this is your first double crochet. So 3 chains is 1 double crochet, and you're going to yarn over again, and you're going to do another double crochet. That's your first set of double crochets for this entire loop. Okay, now you're going to go, I like to go in a rainbow pattern. You can do it however you like, but I'll kind of just show you the way that I did it. So now next I'm going to do yellow. Now you want to leave a long loop, because it's going to get interesting here how you see what I did, because it's going to get a little bit tricky, and you don't want your yarn, you don't want your project to see here and there. You don't want your last stitches you did to come apart. So if you make a long loop, it'll be easier to backtrack, and you'll understand what I'm talking about soon when I get further around in this project. So now we're going into the yellow. Now I'm doing a standing, I believe this is called a standing post crochet. So you're going to go back into that magic ring and into the space, and you're going to do your first double crochet with the yellow. And you see my yarn is up here rather than down here. You want to do that standing double crochet because in the end, when you go to tie the yarns off or secure them in the back, they can come apart, and I've tried it that way and it didn't work so well, so just a heads up on that. Okay, so now you have yellow. Okay, make a long little loop. Doesn't have to, I mean long little meaning, you know, long enough to where it wouldn't come apart on you. Okay, so now from yellow we're gonna do orange. Okay, now I gotta find the end to my orange. A little bit messy. Okay, same thing. I'm going to do a standing double crochet here. I'm going to go through this magic loop, and it's a little tricky the first time you go around because you haven't really gotten enough stitches in there to where you have something to hang on to. So if it feels awkward, just know that's okay. You're still doing fine. So now you have your orange, and see, here's a loop. And it's going to seem like confusing because you're going to have all these loops, but I really don't know any other way to accomplish this pattern other than the way I'm explaining. So if someone else plays around with it and figures out a shortcut or a better way to do it, let me know. Okay, so we just did orange, so the next is red. So same thing, double crochet, standing post crochet right next to the orange. So we have 2 stitches here, your first double crochet in the red. Okay, and now you have your red. Make a loop. Oh geez, this is gonna get crazy. But it's gonna be fun in the end. It's actually kind of fun to make once you get the hang of it, I promise. Okay, so pink. This is a hot pink. I like this color a lot. So, same thing. This is our 5th color. You're doing a standing double crochet here. Okay, and then you're going to do another double crochet right next to it. Ta-da! Make a loop. Okay, on to the next. Now we have, this is like a vintage pink color with 12 colors in the loop. I thought, well, maybe just using like a variation of pink or some other colors in here to add an interesting fade or variegated look would be cool. Same thing, standing double crochet, and you're doing a double crochet right next to that. So we're getting there. Okay, next color is lavender purple. This is also a vintage funky yarn that was in my stash. Now, this is probably the halfway point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're at the halfway point, so we have 6 more to go. So standing double, you're going to yarn over. There's your first one. And then your second one, make a loop. So far, so good. Move this a little closer. Oops. Oops, I almost lost that guy. No worries. See, that's why you want to, oops, I'm going to do that stitch over. Okay. So there. Now we've got our purple. Now I got like another type of purple, like a brighter purple. And yarn over. I think that's yarn over twice. Let me see. Yarn over to do a double crochet. And then into the loop. Now just know I'm gonna work on a written pattern, I think, with a friend of mine. I am not versed in pattern writing yet, so hopefully this is understandable, and if you have any questions, I'm sure, you know, feel free to ask in the comment box. This is my second video ever, so it might take a little bit of practice to really get some great videos made. So I'm just going to go slow and make sure that I'm as clear as possible on this one. Okay, next is like a navy blue. Okay, navy blue. Here we go. Now we're doing this darker blue, double crochet, standing double crochet, and there's your double right next to it. There's your loop. And you might want to pull a little extra yarn from the inside after you do your stitches, because when you go around the next time, it'll be one less thing that you have to do. Okay, this is cool. This is a vintage turquoise. I love this color. Okay, next, I got a little knot here, I gotta untie it. Okay, now this funky turquoise. Okay, double crochet, yarn over, and another double crochet right next to it. So you see how you need your hole big, because you're adding a lot of stitches at the same time in here, and you will be able to pull it tighter like I said, but in the beginning you want to keep it open. Okay, next we have this lime green color. We are almost done with the first round. So you're doing your standing double crochet just like all the other ones. And now you're doing a double crochet right next to it. Ooh, make a loop. Okay, now you can probably pull your string in just a little bit, because this is going to be your last color. This is the 11th color, this green here, and then the last color is, I'm using lime green. Okay, yarn over, and you're going to do that standing double crochet, and then the double crochet right next to it, and don't forget your loop. Okay, this is what we have so far. We have a magic ring that we can, here's the end to that magic loop. Okay, now there's still some space there, which you can close it up a little bit. Don't close it all the way, but just pull it enough to where you want the green like right next to the white. See that? Now the green is close to the white, so when I go to do the next row, it's not going to be far away. But there's still a good size hole there. That's okay. And you have all these loops. Kind of crazy, I know. Bear with me. It's going to get a little more confusing. Okay, now, here we have the white. We're coming back around to the white. I'm going to pull a little bit of yarn out of the ball there, because it'll make it easier. Now, I'm going to show you something. We are going to stitch. If you look on, let's see if I can show you here without it getting blurry. I hope it's clear. Okay, this area right here. Let me see. I'm going to put this down a little more so you can see better. Okay. So right in here, there's the top of that double crochet. That's where we're going to stitch. So what you need to do is just pull through a loop and pull through a loop through the white. And what you're doing here is you're creating a slip stitch and you're connecting these two together. Okay? Now, from here, you're going to do 2 double crochets in that same space. So we're going to, oops, I got a little bit of a broken fiber there, no worries. Okay, I chained 3 as my first set of double crochet. Let me see if that's what I did on my last one. I think you can do 2s, but I did 2s on my last one. If you want to do 2s, that's fine. If you want to do 3, I know that's typically what we do for the first standing one. And then right next to it, you can do the double crochet. Okay, now you're going to make a loop, okay, because you're going to go to the yellow. See, the thing is, you have to go around and work with every color each time you do a section. You can't continue with the white to do this pattern. So I have to go from the yellow to the orange, and then when I get to the next round I have to do the same thing. So it's a lot more tedious than doing the other one that I showed you, the first spiral, where you're adding granny square stitches around and then you go to the next color and then you add several more. It's a little bit different process. It's a little bit quicker than this one, but I haven't done a video for that one, but I was thinking about doing that too. So maybe next I will do that one. So that way you can get a clearer idea what I'm talking about. Anyhow, we're on to the orange now. So yellow goes into the orange. You're going into the top of that double crochet in that set of 2 double crochet in the orange part. So you're doing a slip stitch. So now you've connected. So now orange and yellow and white, yellow, and orange are all connected. Okay, and now you're adding your first set of doubles for the yellow, and then you have your double crochet right next to it. Now you want to do a loop. Now you see how there's a space created? That's okay, because you're going to be chaining in between your double crochets, and then as you go out, that's what's going to create the pinwheel. Okay, now we've done the yellow, so now we're going to move over to the orange. This is where it gets a little tricky managing all this yarn at the same time, but if you go slow and you follow what I'm saying, and the more you do it, it gets easier. So from orange, same thing, you're gonna go into that the top of the first double crochet, which is right there. See it? Okay. Now we're gonna chain 3. Now we've connected the orange to the red, and you're doing a double crochet right next to that. Make sure you had your loop. Okay, now you have red. So you're just repeating this all the way around. Sometimes you gotta put the working yarn behind the next section that you're stitching, because if it's in front of it, it gets a little tricky. So we're done with the orange, so we can put that yarn down, because now we're working with the red. So you're basically going around this entire row, and you're connecting by going into the top of that section of color on the top of that double crochet. Now I've connected the red to the pink, and I'm doing a double crochet, which is chain 3, and then your double crochet right next to that, and you make a loop. See, the pinwheel is forming? How cool is that? Okay, now you're on to the bright pink. I don't know how I figured this out. It was just kind of, I don't know, I was playing around. I'm a freestyle crocheter, so sometimes I don't follow patterns and I go off the beaten path. Okay, so here we are, bright pink next to pastel pink, and you're going into the top of that stitch, into the top of that double crochet, and you're chaining 3, and you're going to double crochet back into that same space, and you're going to make a loop. Now you're into the pastel pink, Pull some yarn from the skein. Okay, same thing into the top of that lavender color, to the top post of that. Okay, and you're going to slip stitch just like we have been, and you're going to chain 3, yarn over, double crochet, make a loop. Okay, so it's coming together pretty good so far. You know, this yarn's in the way, but that's just how it goes with this project. Next we have the lavender purple. So from the lavender color into the darker purple, into the top of that double crochet, slip stitch, and chain 3, yarn over, and double crochet, make a loop. Pull some yarn. Okay. Dark purple, chain 3, oops, my bad, sorry. Right, back up. Okay, nope, we're not chaining 3 yet. We are going from the purple to the blue. So into that double crochet, slip stitch, and chain 3, yarn over, and into that same space and double crochet, make a loop. We are almost finished with this round. Okay, pull the blue into the turquoise, connecting into the turquoise with the slip stitch into that top stitch, slip stitch into the other side, chain 3, yarn over into that same stitch and double crochet and make a loop. And to the turquoise, we are going to repeat into the top of that next stitch of the double crochet in the lime green, chain 3, yarn over into that same space, double crochet, make a loop. Here's the lime green, pull some yarn into the top stitch of the next one, which is the last one, and we're slip stitching there, making a double crochet, so chain 3, yarn over, and double crochet. Okay, make a loop. Actually, the last one is the green into the first, the lime green into the first one, which is white, and then it will be a complete row. So we're connecting, put the yarn behind it if it gets in the way. Okay, so from here we're connecting the whole circle. So you're going to go into that very first, the third stitch from the bottom is where you're going to stitch. Okay, slip stitch, chain 3, and double crochet into that same space. Okay, so now I'm going to show you what we have. Now there's spokes on the wheel. Okay, this is what you want, but you want to take this and pull it just a little bit, not a lot, but make sure you got the white one so you're pulling the right one. That's the one we started with, and just pull it to about, just a little tighter, not too much, but just a little bit more. Okay, now the next row, we're going to go to the white. That's always our starting point because that's our first color we started working with. Now we have a space in between where we didn't have a space before. So this is where we start doing the web. So to create the web, you are going to chain 2, like so, and you're going to go into the third stitch from the first set of double crochets into the next color, which is yellow. So you're going to go into that third stitch and you're going to slip stitch just like we did before on the previous row, and you're going to add a three chains, which is your first double crochet, and then you're going to add another double crochet. So see how it's climbing? That's what you want because this is a spoke that's creating a spiral in the yellow, and we're going to stack them. So, you know, it seems totally crazy, but that's it for the white for this row. We're going to go to the yellow now. And we're going to chain 2. And you're going to go, same thing, what we just did in the white, we're going to do that all the way around. So you're going to go into the orange, and you're going to slip stitch, and you're going to go chain 3 and go into that same space, and you're going to chain 2. I'm sorry, you're going to double crochet. There you go. So now your spaces are going to start getting a little bit wider apart. And when we climb up the wheel, we're going to, so here's chain 2, then it'll be chain 3, chain 4, chain 5, chain 6, chain 7. I do about 7 rows because the hoop that I use, that's what seems to work with the amount of rows I need in order for it to fit the ring properly. Of course, if you want to use a smaller ring or a larger ring, you can adjust your rows accordingly. So now we are at orange. So now you've left your loop on the yellow, so now you're going to go back to the orange, and you are going to chain 2 and into the 3rd stitch. Okay, and you are going to move that red loop out of the way. Okay, now you're going to chain 3, and you're going to do your next double crochet right next to that, and you're going to leave a loop. Pull some yarn. You got your red, same thing, chain 2 and slip stitch into the top of the 3rd set of double crochets in the pink section, and you're going to chain 3, and you're going to go back into that stitch and do a double crochet, and you're going to leave a loop. Now you're going to go to the pink, and you're going to chain 2, and you're going to go into the top of that pastel pink, and you're going to slip stitch. See how it's coming along? Okay. So chain 3 for your first double crochet into that next, into the same space, and do your double crochet, make a loop. Here's your pastel pink, pull some yarn, and from your pastel pink you're going to chain 2, and you're going to go into the 3rd stitch in the purple row, slip stitch, chain 3, and double crochet into that same space. Make a loop. Here is your purple, light purple. Pull the loop back down so you can control stitches. Chain 2. Okay, and you're going to go into that purple, slip stitch, chain 3 for your first double crochet in the purple, and then back into that same space, and we're going to do a double crochet. Make a loop. Dark purple. Pull that loop down, pull some yarn. Okay, now we're going from the purple, so we're going to chain 2, chain 2 into the blue, so the 3rd stitch up is where you're going to connect it, and you're going to slip stitch, so loop right through that purple, chain 3, yarn over into that same space, and we're going to double crochet. Leave a loop. You're done with that one. You're almost done with this row. So here's the navy blue, same thing, chain 2 into that 3rd stitch in the turquoise right next to it, the top of that stitch, and we're going to slip stitch, chain 3, yarn over, double crochet into that same space, make a loop, turquoise. Okay, we're going from turquoise to green now. So you can get in a rhythm with this. Once you get going, it starts to make more sense. Okay, chain 2 into the top of that 3rd chain from the green, the first set of your double crochets, and you're going to slip, and then you're going to chain 2, actually chain 3, sorry, and you're going to go into that same space, chain 2 again, there's your blue. So from this color green, see how it gets a little crazy? Okay, chain 2, so into the lime green, you're going to do your connect over into that space, and then chain 3, yarn over and double crochet into that same space. Now you have your doubles in that row. You have lime green, pull some yarn, chain 2 into the top of that the white, which is the very beginning. So this is our second round, into the top there, and we're gonna slip stitch and then chain 3. Here's the last section of this row, and then go back into that same space and double crochet. Okay, you're done with that green. So now you put it this way so you can see how it's coming. So you see we got spokes, it's building, and it's going in a spiral. Okay, that's what we want. So now we're going to the white again. And so basically this pattern repeats the whole way until you want it as big as you need it. And all you're doing is you're going to increase the web as you move out. So now on my first one I made, I used double crochets in each section. You can also do 2 rows of 2 double crochet, 2 rows of 3 double crochet, another 2 rows of 4 double crochet. And actually, let me just pause the project for a second and show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this was what I was just referencing, is if you do rows of 2s, and it was right about here I did rows of 3s, and down here I did rows of 4s. What happens is that the pinwheel kind of gets a little slightly wider as it goes down. So that's just a variation for you if you want to try that. I think it looks pretty cool. Now on this one, you might notice now that I'm pointing it out, the slight difference. This was the first one I made. Let me take this away because you can see right through the other side. Now do you see how these are thinner pinwheels? Because these are all just sections of actually I did 2s and 3s all the way up. So it started with 2s and then went up to 3s. I did no 4s on this one. So you can play around with that. Be creative. You know, there's no rules really when you do fun stuff like this. You can kind of improvise. But I'm just going to continue showing how this is done. Now, because I've done 2 rows of 2s, 2 double crochets, on this row, just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and change it up and add 3 double crochets on top of all the doubles. Okay, so we've done 2 chains in this row, so now we're going to do 3 chains because the spokes are going to get wider apart. So 3 double crochets, and into the top of that double crochet in the yellow, which is the top of the third stitch in the top of that chain, and you're going to chain 3. Now I'm going to go back into that same stitch and I'm going to do another double crochet, and this time I'm going to add 1 more. So now we've got 3. That stitch is kind of loose, so I'm going to fix it. So now we've got 3 double crochets, make a loop. Okay, now we're to yellow. Okay, so from yellow, I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go into the top of the orange, the third stitch in that double crochet there, right next to it. I'm going to slip stitch. So slip stitch. So you're connecting. See how they're connecting now? And chain 3. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go back into that same space, chain 2. Now, you could probably stitch in between right here, but I like to go into the very top of the stitch in the first chain of 3. That's where I prefer to stitch. So, just a heads up on that. Okay, so now you have 3 double crochets. We went from 2 to 3. Okay, now we're moving on to orange. And we're going to chain 3. Oops. So 1, 2, 3. And into that next space of, or the top of that chain of red, the third chain. We're going to slip stitch and chain 3, and we're going to do 2 more double crochets there. Okay, so now we have our 3 double crochets of orange. Now we're going to come over to the red. We're going to chain 3, and we're going to come over to the top of the third stitch there. Okay, chain 3, yarn over, go back into that space. So we're doing 3 double crochets and we're making a loop, and now we're to the pink. See, this is what starts to happen when you do this. It's really, I haven't really figured out how to not tangle so bad. Maybe if you put yarn in separate containers or something, that's probably what I should be doing. But what I end up doing is just pulling the yarn I'm working with through all the tangles. So I have sort of an interesting way that I work through projects, especially with lots of yarns. Okay, so if you have patience for that, or if you want to set up some kind of more efficient system, by all means, do so. Okay, chain 3 into the top of the pastel pink from the bright pink. We are slip stitching there, and you're doing chain 3, yarn over, and double crochet, and yarn over again, and double crochet again. So now you have 3. Ta-da! Make a loop. Okay, now we're going over to the pink. Same thing. You gotta pull some yarn. Okay. Chain 3, and into the top of the purple, like so, and chain 3, and you're going to go in the top of that purple again, and you're going to do 2 more double crochets, like so, and make a loop. Now to the purple, chain 3, okay, into the top of the third chain in the next color, which is dark purple, slip stitch, chain 3, yarn over, chain 2, so I'm sorry, double crochet, and double crochet again. There's your double crochet in the lilac purple. Okay, now next color is bright purple. Sometimes the loops get a little twisty. Okay, chain 3 into the navy blue, top third stitch in that chain, slip stitch, chain 3 for your first double crochet there, and then go back into that stitch. And you're going to do 2 more double crochets, like so. Make a loop, navy blue, pull some yarn, chain 3, and into the top of the turquoise you are going to slip stitch there. So your web's getting a little bit wider, and you're going to chain 3, and you're going to double crochet right next to that, and double crochet again, and you have 3 double crochets. Okay. Turquoise. Okay, chain 3 into the lime green, so you're going into the top of that chain as well, and you're going to slip stitch, and you're going to chain 3 from here, first double crochet. Now you're going to do 2 more, and oops, make a loop. Okay, we're almost done. Line, or yeah, this is like a bright green. Chain 3 into the third stitch on the lime green and connect it with a slip stitch like so. Chain 3 and chain, or back into that same space. Okay, try not to stitch too tight, and then you won't be able to get back into your stitches. Okay, and then a double crochet and leave a loop. Now we're connecting the very last color with the white, and we'll be done with that row. So chain 3 and into the 3rd stitch on the top of that white, like so. You've connected it with a slip stitch, and chain 3 again, back into that same space, and you have, see, okay, look at how it's coming along. Can you see now how this design is taking shape? There's our pinwheels, there's the spiral. Cool, huh? Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and show you one more row, and then basically I think you'll have the gist of what you need to know to create this funky cool spiral burst pinwheel design. And then I will finish this off camera, and when it's time to put this in the ring, I will come back and show you how to connect it. So for the last row, we're back at the white. Well, it's not the last row, but it's the last row I'm going to show on camera. Okay, so now we've done 2 chains here, 3 chains here. What are we doing here? 4 chains. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you get the idea? So you're increasing your chains, because what's going to happen is that the pinwheel is going to grow and the spaces are going to get wider. So you need to connect it with more chains as you go out from the center. Make sense? Okay. So here's the white. So we did 2 and 3. So now we're going to do 4 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, same thing that we've been doing. You're slip stitching into the 3rd stitch in the first double crochet, and the next color is yellow. So there is our slip stitch, and you're connecting the chains right to that next color. So we'll loop that loop right through like so. Chain 3, and we're going to go ahead and do 3 double crochets in this row too. I'll probably do 4s on the last couple rows. So you're welcome to do that as well if you like. Give it a try. And oops, I went into the space there, which is totally fine, but for keeping this pattern consistent, I'm going to go ahead and go through the top of that 3rd stitch again. Okay, so again, you're going to do your 3 double crochets just like in the previous row, except we're going up now. So see how it's turning into a spiral, because you're going up from this row, you're jumping up 1. This is why we have to work the colors separately, because you're stacking onto the rows in order to get it to spiral and stack. I think that's just how it's done. So yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4 chains, and into the top of the orange, so the 3rd chain. Sometimes it's a little tricky getting it in there. Slip stitch, chain 3, and you're going to do 2 more double crochets for your next set of 3 in this row, which is yellow. Make a loop. Always remember to leave a long loop, because when you work with this many yarns, you do not want it. You don't want to lose your stitches, because it's tricky enough as it is. You don't want to make it harder on yourself. Okay, so chain 4 and into the top of the next row of red, which is the 3rd stitch there, slip stitch and chain 3, and then go back into that same space and do 2 more double crochets. See, sometimes I chain those 3 a little too tight and it's harder to go back, but anyways, okay. So there's red. We're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, into the top of the pink. So sometimes the yarn splits. It's okay. Take your time. You don't need to rush through a project like this. It takes a little bit of brain power. Okay. Alright. Slip stitch, chain 3. Oops, the yarn split again. 1, 2, 3. Back into that same space, and oh man, good thing I love yarn. I used to get so frustrated when I was little, and my grandma always used to tell me, patience, patience, in Maltese. So luckily, as now I've learned to appreciate that idea, and I try to just embrace it. Okay, there's the red. Okay, there's the pink. We're going to do the same thing. Chain 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, into the top of the pale pink, so that third stitch, slip stitch here, connecting those rows, chain 3, and then back into the same stitch and double crochet, and you're going to do one more double crochet here, weave a loop, come to the next color, which is the light pink, right next to it, and you're going to chain 4, and you're going to go to this lilac-y color and slip stitch into that top stitch, chain 3, and back into that stitch. You're going to do 2 more double crochets. Go back and fix that. Okay. Now you leave a loop there. You have your light purple. See, it's coming along nice with all that yarn in the way, but pretty soon it'll be looking really cool. Okay, chain 4, top of that purple stitch, and connect it with a slip stitch. There's that. Chain 3, and back into that same space, and do your double crochets. So we got 3 total. Oops, this one I stitched really tight. Darn it. Okay. Oh, tangles. Okay, there's your loop there. Here's the purple. Chain 4, this is dark purple, into the navy blue. So same thing, into the third stitch in the top of that chain, connect with a slip stitch, chain 3, and double crochet, and we're going to do one more double crochet in that same space. Oh, tight. Okay, leave a loop from the navy blue. We're going to do the same thing, chain 4, and into the top of that turquoise, slip stitch, chain 3, okay, into that stitch again, chain 3 again, sorry, double crochets. These are double crochets. I said chain 3 here, these are 2 double crochets. Okay, turquoise. I'm not used to talking while I'm crocheting. This is all new to me. Okay, chain 4. Now we're going to go from turquoise to the green, and we're going into the top of that third stitch in that set of double crochets, and you're going to slip stitch and chain 3 again, and back into back into the same space and double crochet again. Ooh. Okay, leave a loop. Okay, now we're almost done with this row. Okay, now chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, into the third stitch on the lime green. If I could get it in there. Oh, okay. Okay, so there we are. We slip stitch into that color there, and we're going to do 3 double crochets here. So chaining 3 is your first double crochet, and then back into the same stitch, and one more. I'm just going to remind you, when you do these chain 3s, I kind of forgot to do it sometimes, but try not to stitch them too tight, because you want to be able to get into that top third stitch to do your next set of double crochets, and if you're going to be doing, you know, 2 or 3 more in that same space, you want to make it easy to get the hook through that stitch. So okay, just a friendly reminder, chain 4, and okay, now we're to the white again, and we're connecting, and we're finishing the row by doing another set of 3 double crochets in that same space that we're stitching. Okay, now I'm going to show you the progress so far. Oh, how cool is that? Love it. Okay, so you can see how it's spiraling and the pinwheel is forming. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish the rows. I'm going to do a few more rows. Same thing. The only difference is I'm adding more chains in between each set of double crochets. So now remember, you're working with each color as you go around. You're going to chain on this row. This is 4. From here you're going to do 5. And you're going to slip stitch into that top 3rd stitch of that first set of double crochets in the red. And you're going to go all the way around, switch colors, and do that and repeat. Okay, so I'm going to do 7 rows, so I have 3 more rows to go, and then I will come back and I will show you how to connect it. Woohoo! Okay, happy crocheting. I'll be back.